Welcome, everyone, to our session on investment in the transportation and logistics sector in Saudi Arabia. Today, we have a unique opportunity to hear from distinguished panelists, which include CEOs, CFOs, and major figures within the Saudi Ministry of Transportation. As we explore this topic, we will delve into the strategic importance of Saudi Arabia as a logistics hub in the region, particularly in the context of Vision 2030. We'll discuss current market trends and the challenges faced by industry players and the role of the government in fostering a conducive investment environment. Without much further ado, I'd like to introduce my panelists. We have Ms. Nouf Al Faris, Assistant Deputy Minister for Sector Enablement at the Ministry of Transport and Logistics Services in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. As well as Mr. Ihab Aziz, the Chief Financial Officer of Agility. And my name is Tariq Ali Ahmad. I am the head of the Research and Studies Unit at Arab News. Now, to get things started, Ms. Nouf, I'd like to ask you, what is the importance of being here in Davos at WEF and having this Saudi house?
It's my first time. It's an amazing experience. I've never thought that's going to be like this. So I've always thought that Davos, what I've heard about is all of the people who comes are economists, who talks GDP numbers and so on. But when I came here, I saw a lot of good people who speaks business. Met with a lot of CEOs of companies. Maybe today, the purpose for me to be here today is to make a network with international companies in the TNL sector to try to make them see Saudi, how the market is very attractive, and to enter the market, and how can we help them as a government to ease getting into this market, and whatever tools that they need or support or incentives that we can help with. So I'm very pleased to be here today, the Saudi House. So thanks to the Ministry of Economy and Planning, they have done an amazing job. Maybe I think the Saudi House is the best Saudi house within Davos. I've been to different places, but I think this one is different. Hopefully next year it's going to be much better.
Inshallah. And Mr. Ihab, we heard just from the government perspective, as someone who's in the private sector, how does being in Davos help you in terms of working within the region as well?
I mean, Agility has been coming to Davos, I can't remember since when, but more than 15 years. And we find this as a very important event where we can connect and get the name of our company out, get relationships, engage with governments. And I think it's a very productive forum, and we're very pleased to be here.
Great. Well, it would be great now then to hear about your own experiences with investments within Saudi Arabia. Ms. Nouf, can you please give us a little bit of insight into investment within the
Absolutely. So, as you know, maybe I will start with the NTLS, which is the National Transport and Logistics Strategy. It was announced at the mid of 2021 by His Royal Highness. It is an ambitious strategy, to be honest. A lot of objectives and goals that we want to achieve on all transport modes. So we're talking about 6 different transport modes around the kingdom. One of the things that was mentioned in the NTLS, and we're trying today, I'm here today for it, is to attract investments within the TNL sector in Saudi to achieve 1 trillion Saudi riyal by 2030. Since I joined, it was difficult at the beginning when I saw the number, because that would going to affect my bonus at the end of the year, because I'm not going to achieve that. So we started that. So I was really furious at the beginning. I was like, 1 trillion. I've never seen that number before. So since 2021 until the end of 2024, all that fear has gone, because we achieved 500 billion in 4 years almost. The investment was different in different transport mode. For example, we have the rail network that has been invested in, the Riyadh Metro, the logistic zones, the new logistic zones that has been developed, the expansions of seaports and airports. All of these investments has been very critical to the NTLS, which is the strategy. Today, the NTLS or the government as its own, the ministry or the ecosystem, we cannot achieve whatever it's the ambitious targets that we have put in there, we cannot achieve it alone. We need the private sector, we need the investors, whether it's local or international. During these 3 years or 3 years and a half, we worked with a lot of companies, especially international companies. As you know that recently there is a lot of good tight relationship with China. China is entering the Saudi market. I was able, with my team, to get GNT to invest in Saudi Arabia, to open their business there. They invested over 1 billion riyal, which is approximately $300 million. Agility is one of the biggest logistics companies within Saudi Arabia. They invested a lot in a lot of logistics and warehouses. Thanks to the private sector, we achieved $500 billion in 3 years and a half. We're looking for more. There is a lot of projects coming. Today, we have almost 50 investment opportunities that has been announced, and the business cases has been done. It's on Invest Saudi website. We're trying to work with the private sectors and investors to invest in that. The infrastructure of Saudi Arabia, as you know, that there is a lot of investments within the government to develop the infrastructure. Today, Saudi Arabia considered as a gate to 3 continents, which is if you want to get into the Asia market, you can get through Saudi Arabia. When you go to Africa market, there's the Red Sea, and also if you want to go to the Europe, it's part of it. So we're trying to use that to attract the investors, and mostly what we're trying to do is the incentives for the private sector to make them come and invest, and that we can talk about later.
Oh, definitely.
Before the session, we were talking, me and Ihab, and we did a deal with Agility for one of the logistics centers at the city entrance of Riyadh. So we can talk about that.
Oh, definitely. I think being in Davos is so conducive for meetings because everyone's just there at the same time, and you could just be grabbing a coffee, and then suddenly someone in front of you is working with you, and you strike a deal of some sort.
Yeah.
Please, can you tell us about your experience from the private sector? What do you think? How were investments in the Saudi Arabia and
Sure.
whatnot?
Let me give maybe a little bit of background on Agility, so you understand the context, and then where Saudi fits into all of that. So Agility was a public company since actually established by the government of Kuwait in 79, was privatized in 97. The company back then was about $300 million market cap, operating in Kuwait and building only warehouses. So single sector, single country, $300 million. The company, since privatization, has grown to become a global operator. We're not financial investor, we are an operator. We own operating assets. And today the company has about $11 billion of assets, mainly in 4 entities related to the logistics and transport segment. We invested in DSV, so effectively we sold our logistics business in 21 to DSV. DSV is one of the largest global logistics companies, $50 billion company, and we are the largest shareholder in DSV. So that's one. We also own Menzies, which is one of the largest global aviation company that is operating in about 255 airports. TriStar, which is fuel logistics, one of the leaders in the space. And finally, industrial estate, which is the Agility Logistics Parks, mainly in Saudi Arabia. We entered Saudi Arabia, so over the last 26, 27 years, we have generated about $8 billion of value, of which $2 billion in dividends distributed to the shareholders and $6 billion in market cap. So that's the side. It's a company that doesn't have any government business, it's not a bank, it's not a telecom, and hence it's a pure private, owned by 15,000 shareholders, and now listed in Kuwait and in Abu Dhabi. We have been in Saudi for almost 22 years. So we entered Saudi in 2003. And I think that was based on a very strong conviction, even before the vision, which actually made us even more optimistic about the future. And the challenges back then, the market was very relatively small. Of course, relative to the Middle East, it's big, but given our scale and scope of operation, yet we had that conviction that Saudi in the future is the only place to be if you want to be in the Middle East. And hence we have been investing since 22 years in Saudi. It has been a very rewarding and very, and we are very optimistic about the future despite some normal challenges that we would face as a global operator.
Well, could you actually highlight and expand any challenges you face in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and how you're trying to get over them?
Yeah, so I mean, initially when we went to the market, it was typical market where you don't have, people don't invest for the long run. It's a very wealthy market. Private sector is a very wealthy families and networks, high networks individual companies. But actually they invest, so when they buy land for the sake of land, they don't develop, they sit on the land and then the value appreciate, which has been a great investment for many. We come and we put a lot of money up front, we buy the land, we build the warehouses, but then we have to wait for number of years, 5, 10, 20 years to get our return. So it's a very long-term investor. And hence the structure of the market back then was that it can only, those who were building warehouses, it wasn't grade A. And for us to build grade A, the price had to double. And I think it was a very bold decision to go and invest with the confidence that the Saudi market deserve actually a more efficient and more productive facilities, which actually the case today. So when we look 22 years later, today we have about 1.5 million square meter of land, almost 75% fully developed. And the reason it's 75% because we recently got a place, land in Jeddah. It's being developed. But as a matter of fact, we don't have a single square meter that is vacant today. And we are talking about the likes of Amazon, IKEA, all the big operators. And those require grade A facilities, require long-term investor in the sector because they expand and they don't want to expand to deal with multiple landowners and developers. So I think partnering with Agility has been very rewarding for the customer, for us, and I think also for the Saudi market. So we had to take the long view, put money at risk, and get. So that was our own challenge. It was more of an education and maturity. And now I think the market is very well matured. Second,
sorry to interrupt. I actually wanted to understand from Noof as a representative of the government how how the government actually thought about facing these challenges, making them easier for private sector to come and invest.
Absolutely. So maybe one of the things that the government was working on in the past after the Vision 2030, because he was talking about 2014. I was just graduated from college, so I don't know what he's talking about. So after the Vision, there is a lot of programs, Vision 2030 programs, like NIDLib, which is the National Development of Logistics Sectors and Industry, a lot of programs that has been developed, and funds as well. Moreover, like a lot of government has been attracting the youth. Today, I consider myself a youth. I'm still young, so they're trying to attract those new leaders who has an appetite for the change. So a lot of regulations and I would say policies has been developed to make sure that EHAB and all the companies from the private sector, whether international or local, can have the right platform to invest in. And we make sure that they have a return on investment for their investment as well. They are a partner with us as a government today. Maybe one of the things that maybe I would shed light on is the investment law that has been reformed lately. The investment law that has been reformed lately has given especially the foreign investors an opportunity to have their ownership, 100% of ownership for their businesses. They don't need a local partner or something to get into the market. And a lot of incentives and regulation is. I think these things wasn't there back in 2014 when he was talking about, but today there is a lot of programs that's every day that we're talking about. Today we have his assistant minister, Dr. Abdullah Dbekhi, assistant minister of Ministry of Investments. They're working a lot, day and night, to make sure that the investment environment within Saudi, in all sectors, gets the attention that it needs and make it very attractive for the investors to get in.
Well, talk to us. You said you struck a deal on the side.
We did.
Could you highlight what you were talking about?
So one of the deals, so there's a project that we're working on. It's part of the NTLS. So as you know, that 80% of the cargoes or cargo movement within Saudi is on roads. What's happening is, so we have the main cities, which is Riyadh, the capital, and we have Jeddah and Dammam. So a lot of cargo that moves on the roads, which is 80%, as I said, of movement cargo. What's happening is there is a lot of trucks going in and out from the cities. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to build city entrance logistics centers at all the cities' entrance. Like, for example, Riyadh, we have 5 entrances to Riyadh. Now we're starting with the eastern entrance. Basically, it is a big space, which is 1 million square meter, that we want to develop and have warehouses, cross-docking. We want to have services for the truckers. So we try to make a full logistic centers, which is going to help the trucks, the bigger truckers. They don't get inside the city, and it goes through small DNS or small trucks or less heavy trucks to get inside the city. Agility is on top of that. And one of the things that I was telling you just now about what the government is doing is, because it's a high, I would say capex investment. It's approximately 100 million SAR or 120 million SAR for the infrastructure and superstructure. So the government, as part of the incentive, they will pay for that. We will build the infrastructure and the superstructure with our partner, and then we will work together as a PPP to operate this center in the future.
How would you think about that?
I mean, it's part of why we are there in Saudi for 22 years. I think the story is getting better and better over time. I think it's very rare to find a country with a clear vision, and not just a vision on a piece of paper or a PowerPoint for public consumption. It's a vision that is tangible and real. It is very rare to find a government that is well educated, incentivized through bonus.
I didn't get my bonus until now, so I'm waiting.
But I mean, the fact that the government is incentivizing its employees through a bonus scheme, that's typical in the private sector, not typical in the government sector. But that tells you the mindset that is running So all these characteristics, plus the size of the Saudi market, the demographic of the Saudi market, the location of the Saudi market, the political and economic importance of the Saudi market, make it almost unavoidable to be in the Saudi market. So as I said, we have been for 22 years. We see ourselves there for the long run. I mean, these type of initiatives, you have, I was telling Noof that, we have scarcity of land. We want to buy land at market price, but we can't. And that's hindering us. We have 1.5 million square meter. We want to invest for 10 million square meter in the next 5 to 10 years. Then immediately you said, okay, we have this project, we'll do it. So that's not typical. And I think that's the agility of governments to make decisions and the empowerment of government officials to make decisions, I think is a very rare characteristic, not only in the Middle East, but also everywhere.
I can only imagine. So that brings me to any changes have there been any recent regulatory changes to make investment easier in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, as I told you just before, the investment law reforms lately, it gave a lot of incentives and a lot of changes and ease for the international investors. In particular, I'm going to talk about the international investors. So before, as I told you, if an international investor wanted to get into Saudi market, there is a few things or items that needs to be filled. They need to have a local partner. They have a CR within Saudi. Today, it gave them the full authority to come and have the 100% ownership. So maybe a lot of companies or international companies, that was one of the things or the major things that make them don't enter the Saudi markets because of that law. Today, the Ministry of Investments worked on that, and they gave the full authority for them to have 100% ownership. Not only that, they're giving them, also there is a platform with the Ministry of Investment that helps all the international businesses when they want to come to Saudi. It's through one single window. They can come and finish all their paperwork within 48 hours. they can get their licenses. If they want to help within spaces and offices, they can help with that. They need incentives from banks or funds or something like that. Ministry of Investment is working highly on that, and these things wasn't there before. And also there is these licenses that has been issued lately for the entrepreneurships. So the entrepreneurs, they can come to Saudi and they have several of incentives packages to come and enter the Saudi market and utilize the market that is there. And as you know, maybe Mr. Ihab just mentioned, Saudi market is really huge. It's maybe the hugest market within the Middle East. The business is there. The market is there. The biggest market share is through Saudi. So today, we are very encouraged to make sure that to make Saudi Arabia really the logistics hub. How can we do that without the private sector? We need to bring them in. Whatever they need, we will do it. So, yeah.
Well, with that, then, with these new changes and this like opening up and the signs blaring out, Saudi Arabia is open for business. What does the future hold for investment and for transportation and logistics within Saudi Arabia?
I wish I can live until 2030, so can see that. In 2030, I will be, I'll be 40 years old. I'm still young.
40 years young.
Yeah. So there is a lot. So one of the things that is major change of the projects is the land bridge that connects from east to west of Saudi Arabia. That's one of the main projects that we're going to be seeing it maybe in 2029, hopefully. We're working closely with several countries. We're not talking about companies. We're talking about G2G. So maybe the major country that we're working on and everyone knows about it is China. Also, there is the rail that connects Saudi to GCC countries, especially to the capitals, which is Abu Dhabi, Doha, and Kuwait. Also, there is the metro. As you know, now Riyadh Metro is opened. Everyone is happy. We are using it as an entertainment, by the way. It's part of Riyadh season. It's going to be the same in Jeddah. So there's going to be a Jeddah Metro as well. As you know, the World Cup is coming in 2034. New airports is opening. Today, one of the investment opportunities, or several investment opportunities that has been announced, and we're looking for investors, which is a PPP, by the way, is 5 new airports that we want to open. Abha Airport, Taif Airport, Hayel Airport, Qasim Airport, and there's I'm not going to call it an airport, it's like a private aviation, so it's for the private jets. So all these airports is trying to be built and make it ready for the tourism that's coming. The Ministry of Tourism is doing an amazing job when it comes to this. Last year, we had 30 million tourists that came to Saudi Arabia. That's excluded from the religious, by the way, tourism. And His Excellency Al-Khatib, 2 days ago, he went to our booth in GAC, and he was very angry because he wanted us to work faster. He's going in a very fast pace, and you know that is infrastructure. It's not like a service. It needs time to be developed. I think Saudi is going to change a lot, especially. Last year it's different. This year, it's every time it's different. NEOM, as an example, NEOM it's a future city. It's either the government, all the ministries were not involved in NEOM. By the way, they have their own government. They're doing an amazing job, and one of the things that is there is they have their own stadium. I don't know if you have seen the football stadium in NEOM. It's fantastic. So I think 2030 is carrying a lot, and we are very optimistic when it comes to this.
Well, I only see great announcements and news coming in, so very excited to see what things to come. Mr. Ihab, regarding, you were talking about how you want to invest in more and you always have this like long-term future planning. What do you see expanding from private sector view on these kinds of future investments?
So look, I think all these infrastructure projects are very essential and important. But really what matters to us for the long term is the mindset. So the vision the government, the individuals that we deal with, the attitude, and all this has been extremely positive. Has always been positive in the past, but I think it's getting to a level where you can count on the government to be your partner. And that, increase your confidence in the economy, which leads to a long-term investment. If you don't have confidence, you would invest in asset light, you won't put your capital in the country, you try to get money out as soon as possible. But I think with that mindset and that vision and the leadership that today is in Saudi, I think all these elements, in addition, of course, to the massive amount of money that is going, but to me, the mindset far more important than the infrastructure. The infrastructure is definitely essential and important, but you want to have a partner where you have confidence that things will remain for the next 20, 30, 50 years the same. And I think that's the type of confidence we are getting from what we are seeing happening in Saudi. So it's the softer element rather than the amount of money. Because someone can argue that Saudi has a lot of money. Investing 5, 10% of oil revenues is not necessarily a big deal. Mm-hmm. But I think it's the mindset. Why this is not happening in countries in the region, why this is not happening in Iraq, in Iran, in other countries, big countries in the region. It's the mindset. And I think what differentiates Saudi today is the leadership, not just at the top, but across the whole government, institutions, the individual, the talent they bring that we are dealing with. And that is genuinely a very distinguished factor in Saudi compared to not only, again, countries in the Middle East, outside the Middle East.
Now, Agility is a huge player in the region, but what can you, as a veteran of this, what kind of advice can you give to smaller private sector groups that want to invest in Saudi Arabia and they have never invested before? Small players, startups, whatnot. Do you have any advice that you want to give?
I think the startup scene in Saudi is phenomenal, and the numbers speak for themselves. The highest inflows of money for startups was in Saudi. And again, you ask yourself, why not somewhere else? It's not a function of oil, it's a function of environment. The ecosystem that they are creating today is unique. So I think the environment today is very, very good for small, medium-sized, large companies. Today, DSV is partnering with the Saudi government in NEOM and on the logistics side. Menzies, our company, which is now with 5 more airports coming, we see that as a huge opportunity for us to go and provide the services. And I think there is a huge space for many, not just the current local operators, but for many operators, which I think would increase the level of efficiency and productivity. If you are receiving 30 million tourists every year, and that is expected to grow at phenomenal growth rates in the next 5 to 10 years, you need not just the physical infrastructure, but the service infrastructure. And that requires competition. You open up the competition for companies to come, invest, and the whole level of the society and the service level goes up. So I think, as I said, there is no place better than Saudi. If you look at the risk reward today, anywhere, for small, medium-sized, large companies, there isn't many countries that you can invest in today globally as in Saudi.
But I'm going to hold you to that. To give me 2 tips to give them, at least tips or advice, pieces of advice to give these small companies.
Ease of doing business. You can see how they are doing. Everything is being digitized. Everything is the level playing field. There is no information that she knows she's giving to her friend. Everything is public. So that, I think, encourages all the small, medium-sized companies to come. So it's not like the big players who are entrenched with the regulators are getting the opportunity. It's public.
Yeah.
So it's up to them to take the initiative, right? So that's definitely one thing. I think for the small and medium size, if you think about the short term, which unfortunately there is a lot of mindset in the region because it's the instability and the lack of confidence.
Precisely.
If they think differently and take a long-term view, I think small businesses. We were a $300 million company 26 years ago, right? We became an $8 billion, created $8 billion of value. And again, I reiterate, we are not a government, we are not a bank, we are not. When I say this, it's not like we have captive business. We're not telecom, we're licensed. We have grown from a 300, so you can consider it a small or medium size, to
So
global
it's a
operator.
possibility. There
Yeah.
is a dream, and you can achieve
Exactly.
that dream.
But I would say also, one key important element that worked for us is the openness and diversity. And what I mean by that is the people working in organization have to feel that they are being treated fairly and equally. And I think if you want to attract talent, they have to feel, not just money is just one element, it's probably the secondary element. People need to feel that they are being treated fairly. And I think if you create an environment, if you are a small company or a medium-sized company, and you create an environment where people feel they are being treated equally and fairly, I think you will attract a lot of talent. And this unleashes a lot of potential, human capital potential, that is needed. Again, infrastructure is great, it's not enough. You need the human capital to get the multiplier on the infrastructure and the investment that you are making.
Ms. Noof, any additions you want to add to that? What do you think about his tips and tricks?
He is the business. He knows better.
And
I'm
as
the government.
how are you more and more? You were talking about the importance of this collaboration between
Absolutely.
the private and the public in terms of the government. When you look at the smaller players, how are you helping them as well?
Perfect. So there is a lot of programs that the ministry has been working on. One of them actually was just before the session. I had this phone call. We want to develop the sandbox in collaboration with KAUST for the TNL sector. Also, there is a program that we're developing. It's called Ubur. Program Ubur is basically to help the SMEs or the small businesses invest within the TNL sector from the projects that they can invest in, like this huge infrastructure projects, and help with and collaboration with several local banks and funds to make sure that they have the opportunity and they have the money to invest in. Also, the last thing that we're working on is a program, or it's called an accelerator for the TNL sector. So we are looking for opening that program in the next month, and we are targeting to have 40 entrepreneurs or 40 small businesses in this program to help them to accelerate. The program is 8 months long, giving them all the tools to prep themselves to get into the Saudi market within the TNL sector as well. If they need any funding or any regulations, exemptions or something like that, we will be helping them during that program. So we're still early when it comes to this. I think we started looking at the small businesses and entrepreneurs last year, to be honest, as a Ministry of Transport and Logistics Service. As you know that our projects are huge and it requires a lot of capex. It's infrastructure projects. However, we noticed that the small players can play a role too as well. For example, as you know that the applications for food delivery like Jahez, Hunger Station, Marsoul and so on, they play a very big role, by the way, when it comes to the logistics. There is other companies like Murrani and other businesses that they need help. They're small businesses, but they can make a very big difference when it comes to closing the gaps. Even if the gaps was small, it's not very huge gaps, but they can help with that. So basically, we started looking at that since last year. We're trying to develop more programs that can help the entrepreneurs and small businesses to be part of participating in the overall TNL sector.
Now, we have almost 5 minutes left, so I want to end this by trying to get what kind of key messages you want to give the audience over here with regards to being both a regional investor and a Western international investor. I'll start with you, Ihab.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have stood the time test, right? We have been in Saudi for 22 years. We accelerated our investment in 2014 when it was dull, oil prices were down, transition in the political scene in Saudi. We actually accelerated our investment there. So I think agility has stood the time test. I think if you take a very pragmatic, analytical approach, you look at what's happening in the Saudi economy. You look at the size of it, the demographics. And again, back to the leadership and the vision and the kind of government they are creating today, I think it's very difficult to find similar places where the risk return, whether it's in Europe, maybe the US is a bit different, but anywhere else, it's very difficult to find a place where the risk reward can give you a significant return on I would say, a moderate risk. So I think, again, we have been investing, we will continue to invest. I think we have a government that is a partner, not just a regulator. And we believe they will take the long-term view, encourage long-term players like us, put the policies in place, increase the supply of whatever resources, whether it's land or infrastructure, to make sure that the vision is achieved and beyond.
Ms. Noof?
Well, maybe one thing that I might encourage the audience to do is, as I mentioned, we have identified more than 50 opportunities within TNL. Visiting the website of Invest Saudi and check these opportunities. It's an amazing opportunities, and the return of investment is really high. I mean, if I'm rich and wealthy, I would invest in these projects because the returns are amazing in a very short term. I would encourage everyone to check the Invest in Saudi website. Look at these opportunities. It's different from all transport mode. If you want to look at maritime, you're going to find something in maritime that may fit you. If you want to look at roads or land transport, rail, aviation as well, we have a lot of good opportunities, and logistics. And I would encourage everyone to look into the website. Invest Saudi is a very crucial website when it comes to any information about the investment in Saudi in all sectors. And also it has all the information needed for the incentives and the work that the Ministry of Investment is working on recently.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for this time and very, very interesting panel. And that's a wrap, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.